finding the omens that lead you to your North Star. And for me, Sanara had become my North Star. I launched, but immediately as soon as I launched, was entered into this desert with the 70% downturn in the market, COVID. And there was an article that came out from Cosmetic Design Europe that stated exactly what I had seen years prior, that Latin American botanicals show so much potential, yet are underutilized in the beauty market.
Welcome to Brands for a Better World, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the people and products building a more just, healthy, and regenerative future for us all. Tune in weekly, and together, we'll learn about why these better products and brands were created, how they're helping fix broken systems, and what you can do to support them. My hope is that you'll discover some new brands to love and get some sparks of inspiration that will help you live your best life. Hi, I'm your host, Gage Mitchell, founder of Modern Species, a sustainable brand design agency helping better brands grow to scale their impact. If you like this show, please help it grow by leaving ratings and reviews on your podcast app and by sharing your favorite episodes with your friends. Maybe this will be one of them. This episode is part of a minority-owned fellowship series in partnership with Naturally Network. And today, I'm speaking with Rebekah Jensen, founder of Sanara Skincare, about the importance of self-care, the mostly untapped potential of Latin American botanicals, and Rebekah's personal battle with cancer while trying to grow her business. We then wrap up with a Naturally Network-themed rapid-fire question segment. Dig in, and maybe consider this a prompt to focus on your own self-care a bit more. I know I need to.
So thanks for having me. I am Rebekah Jensen, the creator and founder of Sanara, where I create mind and body care rituals powered by indigenous Latin American botanicals for the luxury, beauty, and spa and wellness space.
Love it. And I, as I was digging in and looking into your background, I love your focus on just self-care in general, right? It's a big part of your life. And I think being an entrepreneur is particularly hard. And, you know, from what I hear, I'm not one, but being a woman of color obviously has its challenges in all ways, entrepreneurship or other things. And then on top of that, when I was digging into your background, battling cancer, you know, that's immensely difficult while also doing all these other things, you know, carrying all this weight. So that's just a lot. So let's talk a little bit about how you're like managing self-care through all of this stuff.
You know, it has been a whirlwind for sure since launching my Tranquila collection, my first collection. I launched 4 months before COVID, where the spa market, I was focusing in, took a 70% downturn. Mind you, a hit in the market, hospitality. And this is my very first entrepreneurial journey. And so, you know, all those, even when you're seasoned, you have those self-doubt and you have these ideas and all the things. And so, self-care has been really important, especially, you know, it's one thing to handle the market and think like, okay, I don't have any control over that. And then as you're working towards climbing out of that little hole, something else happens, and which has to do with your health. And again, something completely out of my control. The first diagnosis, it was really a time for me because I am a hard worker. It comes from my family. My family were migrant workers. And I always tell people the border crossed us as my family was migrating from season to season, from field to field. And so I know how to work really, really hard, to my detriment sometimes. And my first diagnosis, it was really because I had just come out of COVID, or we really hadn't, but we thought we had. And then this hit me. It was just about, I had to surrender. It's all the energy I had to do. So meditation had really become a big part of getting my mind right through this season of drought, of desert that I've been through for the past 4 years. And yoga, just slowing down, because I know how to push when I know how to work. I know all those things. Those things come easy. Slowing down is what is hard. And
Yeah, especially as an entrepreneur, I think, right?
exactly. Absolutely. And so when you've got nothing left to give and you're like, okay, my white flag is up, I surrender.
Yeah,
So it was a really good learning experience, especially for what I'm trying to do, which was create these body care rituals where you do slow down.
right.
And so my life needed to match the message I was trying to give.
Yeah, I hear that, and we'll dig into the cancer journey in a little
Yeah.
bit too. But even just like you said, you created these products, right?
Mhm.
But the goal, the you weren't like an entrepreneur that's just like, I think there's a problem out in the world, and I'm going to go try to find a way to solve that problem and create products. You
Right.
had your own problem,
Yep.
and you set out to solve it, and then you realized this could actually help a lot of other people. So, what inspired you to kind of take this issue into your own hands and solve your psoriasis rather than looking to other products or other experts or something like that?
Yeah, so I've lived with psoriasis since my teens, and it's always been a point of insecurity in my life, especially when you have those moments of real big outbreaks, which is exacerbated by stress and anxiety and all those things. It's an autoimmune condition, really, that can't be solved by skin. I mean, they can give you topical steroids and things like that. And so, this was about 6 years ago when I was in my kitchen. Now that I look back. Um, Sanara was really created out of my own needs. You know, I have
Right.
psoriasis. I didn't feel glamorous, luxurious with all the products, anything that has to do with sensitive skin at the time was at your CVS and it looked very medicinal, medical, wasn't anything that made me feel attractive or made me
Right.
feel emotionally connected or tied. And so I really wanted to create products that made you feel feminine, made you feel luxurious, made you feel all these things and had your back at the same time by being conscientious of the ingredients that were put inside. I don't know what your age is, but I was born in '82 where the hairspray was burning a hole in the ozone layer, and
Yeah.
so where manufacturing went crazy and there was no thought to the earth or to our bodies, and we now have the repercussions of that. And so it was also a mind shift of having to realize, oh, they don't have my best interest in mind. Some of these products that are out there, how can I shift that and be a voice for that for those who need to be?
Yeah. And I was born in 81, so I definitely remember
Yeah,
remember all that. I
exactly.
remember everything just being about, oh yeah, the ozone and put on sunscreen and some
Yep.
things like that back in those days, right? But it's
Yeah.
we've come a long way because
We-
we've pushed the environment and pushed
Yeah.
social issues so far to the breaking point that it's now in everyone's face and obvious, and we've realized that the problem is much bigger
Yeah.
than just hairspray. But to your
That's
point,
right.
I
Yeah.
think that's where a lot of innovation has come out in the last couple decades, is people realizing how big some of these problems are and that
Yeah.
maybe we can't trust the companies that cause those problems to solve them. So
Yeah.
I think entrepreneurs like yourself are jumping in and saying, you know what, I'm just going to roll my sleeves up, get in the kitchen and try to figure out some solutions here because corporations, or not all corporations, have my back, right?
That's right. Yeah. So it's been exciting.
Yeah. So you started talking about like jumping in the kitchen, but what was that process like of just, you decide the market doesn't have what you need
Hmm.
and you just get in the kitchen, then what? Like, I don't even know where I would start.
I know. So it started. So interestingly enough, my sister-in-law, my husband's Norwegian, who's from Norway. And so just in general, the culture of Norwegians are very crafty. And my sister-in-law was making soap in her kitchen and she told me about it. And honestly, it was furthest from my mind. I thought it was the nerdiest thing ever. Why would I make soap when I can go to Walgreens and buy it for a couple of bucks and be done?
Right.
And I didn't understand that process, but my curiosity was piqued because I have psoriasis, and I was like, I probably should care what's I'm putting onto my skin. And so really just started learning how to make soap. I fell in love with the creativity. Soap making is a cross between science, the chemistry of lye and oils combining to make a whole nother product, to artistry where you get to pick the scents, the colors, how beautiful do you want to make this? And so it really spoke to me from scientific, which I come from the medical field, and I have that sort of mentality of things like that, and then the artistry. But with my corporate job, I didn't have that artistry, and that soap making gave me that outlet. And so it really honestly just snowballed from there, because then I fell in love. I was buying all these ingredients, learning, oh, this ingredient does that, this ingredient does this. And my husband was like, wait, hold on. Hundreds of bars of soap later.
He's like, we're never going to use all this. What are you doing?
Exactly. He's like, either we sell it or you be done with this. And I'm like, I can't be done with it. Like, I'm obsessed at this point. And so that was when I started looking at the market as a whole and noticed, I'm Latina. We have Ayurvedic skincare, we have Korean skincare, we have Scandinavia, France, all these beautiful countries that are represented in the beauty industry, but Latin America wasn't. And then that's when I was like, that's what I'm going to do.
Nice. Yeah, I noticed, I forget, I don't think I wrote it down, but there was a stat, maybe on your LinkedIn page or something, like an article that you shared that said like blank percentage of the world is shifting in this direction of, people of color, women of color, of Latin heritage, et cetera. However, only this tiny sliver or almost none of the market addresses the concerns of those people. So it's like this giant gap, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of why we're doing this series with Naturally Network members around like minority owned companies, because part of the reason we want to support these types of businesses is because they're solving problems that have just been ignored for a long time, right? They left a lot of people, and what will soon be the majority of people in this country, at least, and probably already is the majority around the world, right? They're leaving those people out of the equation when they're developing products. So we need to correct that, right? So having
100%.
people bring their own culture into products is important.
Yeah. As I was coming through this and deciding all these things, actually, I launched my Tranquila collection November 2019, 4 months before the world or the United States shut down for COVID. And that's what, I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Alchemist.
I think I have a long time ago, but
Okay.
it just popped up back up on my radar, and I put it on my list to read again. Yeah.
Okay, then it's a sign from the universe to listen, read it again. But totally. It talks about how finding your North Star, finding the omens that lead you to your North Star. And for me, Sanara had become my North Star. I launched, but immediately as soon as I launched, was entered into this desert with the 70% downturn in the market, COVID. And there was an article that came out from Cosmetic Design Europe that stated exactly what I had seen years prior, that Latin American botanicals show so much potential, yet are underutilized in the beauty market. And so there's so many angles from an ingredient standpoint to a humanity standpoint. We want to be recognized. And who else is going to recognize that Latinas, Latinos, whatever, are not being addressed in the market, but a Latina or a Latino? And so it's been, honestly, I feel like it's been an honor to be beholden of this gift of seeing the need and just going for it. And so it's just become my passion at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have it dialed in with your own interests and passion, because that'll keep you going when times are rough, like you're growing a business during COVID or you get cancer, right? You have to have that passion to push 100%. You through that. Otherwise, you'll just quit. But I'm also a branding business person, and I love that you've also just carved out a very clear focus for the brand. Like, it's easy to say what your company's about, right? And how it's different. So I think that's also, from a business standpoint, really smart.
Yeah, it but really how did you go out, about, to be honest?
How did you go about actually like digging into this? Did you already have a lot of knowledge of the Latin American traditions and healing practices, or was this something that you were like, you know what, I know there's a different way and I've seen it in my community or something like that, but I need to dig in and learn this so I can bring it to the market?
Yeah, bringing it back to where we grew up as far as in the 80s where manufacturing was going crazy. I grew up with the idea of it's also, I have to say, I'll stop there. It's been self-discovery of these traditions and things like that. It's reconnected me to my Latin heritage, where I say the border cross us. Um, Feeling disconnected from my heritage, it's brought me reconnection. Since then, when you're reconnecting with yourself and your heritage, you start going back to your family and things like that. So I've since gone to my mother and asked her, because my grandmother passed when I was 12, and there's only so much you can understand as a 12-year-old about your grandparents and things like that. And so my grandmother took care of me since from at the age of 5, maybe 1 or 2 years, as my mom was going to college. And she's always had a huge impact on my life. And my mom later told me how my grandma Hasso would ask the teenagers in the neighborhood who had access to cannabis, and she would make her own cannabis salves back in the day for her arthritis. And I
Wow.
had no idea. I know. And I'm like, it's been in me, but it was forgotten. And now I get to rediscover these pieces of me and my family and my heritage that just really makes me feel like I'm me. I'm discovering myself.
Okay, so back in.
Yeah,
Sounds like your grandmother was kind of way ahead of her time, obviously,
she
but
was.
that's what I love about a lot of this, like tapping back into more. I don't want to use the word ancient because it's not always like hundreds of years old, or
Sure.
well, it is hundreds or thousands of years old, but it hasn't been
Right.
lost for that long. But like
Right.
tapping back into like cultural wisdom that
Yep.
we've lost over the past few decades, maybe in
Absolutely.
some cultures lost over hundreds or centuries of years. But like
Yep.
what I love about it is that we kind of knew what we were doing in many ways and just
Yeah.
decided it wasn't advanced enough and that we
Yep.
needed to modernize or whatever. And then we kind of went down these paths that in a few cases is better, but in a
Yep.
lot of the cases we've actually gone backwards and now we're
So
just
true.
rediscovering what we already knew.
It's
And I
so
love
true.
that about like regenerative agriculture, for
Yep.
example, or topics like this where we have these herbs, we have these plants, we have these other things that we already know that can heal us. We just
Hmm.
stopped using them for whatever reason.
Right. Right. And I think, power of marketing right there.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. So that's really cool that you kind of like rediscovered this over time, found
Hmm.
ways to kind of weave that into this new passion of making your own
Yeah.
skincare products, which, I do have some friends who do that and I haven't tried it yet. But it does seem like fun. Like the artistry side of me who loves cooking might actually love doing some of this stuff as well.
I
But
think
you
you will.
decided to, put all this into a brand and launch it. And by the way, I love the name of the brand too, because for those who don't know, Sanara means you will heal in
Yep.
Spanish.
Yeah.
So I love that, you were on this healing journey
Yeah.
and you're healing yourself, both
Yep.
your skin, but also your body.
Yeah.
You created this space and this silence to be able to like kind of refocus. I created this space to like build out this company. And then
Yeah.
like pandemics and other things hit, it's just like, that is how the world works. That is how entrepreneurship works. It seems you're always dealing with one challenge or another. But let's talk about the cancer challenge. We talked about
Yeah.
like a little bit at the beginning, but again, you're in the middle of building this business,
Hmm.
pandemic, cancer, all that
Yep.
at once. So how did you how did you keep pushing through that? Like what were your how were you like I seem to remember reading too that the doctors weren't necessarily
Hmm.
taking it seriously at first, so you had to push through. But how did
Yep.
you have that confidence? How did you have that peace? How did you keep pushing forward through all this and keep advocating for your health?
Yeah, so I will knowledge first of all. Like I mentioned to you, I come from the healthcare field. I actually went to school. Little sidetrack. When I moved to Austin, My parents, we were not wealthy. My parents couldn't afford to send me to college, but I moved to Austin and needed to figure out my life in my early 20s and what I was going to do. And so just started looking at Austin community colleges, programs like, okay, I need a degree quick because I need to start making money quick to support myself. And so ultrasound was one of those programs that I could earn a degree in 2 years and start making money pretty quickly. So my career choice at that time was a means to an end. It didn't. It was challenging and I loved it. But since then, I've I want to get away from this ultrasound. Healthcare is not what I thought it was.
Yeah, totally.
And which sadly enough. And so the career I've been trying to run away from since I started Sanara is actually the career that helped save my life because of the
Wow.
knowledge, that I had gained from ultrasound. You scan breast, you know what normal looks like or benign, you know what cancer could look like, and I knew the pitfalls of imaging. So when I was feeling this thing, this lump in my breast, it had other feelings like it was itching and things like that. And I felt like there was a fever to it. And because people ask me, what did you feel? And I often just tell people everyone's going to feel something different. So you just need to know your body. And, Sonara really afforded that or gave me that opportunity to slow down, to rediscover my body in these lumps and bumps that maybe don't belong there. And it was a combination of my medical experience, knowing that mammo and ultrasound has their downfalls. Having my experience with physicians that don't always have the answers, and being alongside patients where I'm screaming inside, advocate for yourself, advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
And then when I was faced with this, I don't know how you say it, opportunity, I don't know, where I was going through these things, I literally went to my family physician because I was feeling something. I need a referral over to the radiologist. I knew from the moment that I was suspicious of something that I needed my end outcome to be a biopsy because that's the only way I was going to know. I know
Right.
mammo's going to give me an idea what it could be, or maybe ultrasound, but I also know that maybe they don't. And when I did go to my appointment, mammo and ultrasound were benign. I was 39, no
Wow.
family history. Yeah. So statistically, in their mind, it's virtually impossible. But my body was saying something different. And it's just really been a culmination of my knowledge as a healthcare provider and then also slowing down enough to rediscover and reconnect with my body. That gave me the ultimate. I pushed my doctors. And then again, when it happened in 2022, I went back and forth with my surgeon for 6 months because we thought it was scar tissue because I went through a bilateral mastectomy the first time. So that was virtually impossible in their minds too for it to come back.
Yeah.
And at the end of December 2022, I had it. I said, I'm tired of going back and forth with you. I've given you the benefit of the doubt enough. Let's get it taken out. I don't care if we think it's scar tissue. He agreed. He was sure it was going to be benign. And I said, I'm sure too, but I'm not going to know till I get it tested. So we did. And then lo and behold, he called me a week later, I wouldn't say distraught. You could hear how upset he was in his voice. But he said, my persistence saved my life. And,
Wow.
at that point, that one hit really hard because I was tired. I was tired of fighting for someone to listen to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really powerful message right there. Like the persistence that saved your life, the
Yeah.
knowledge of this field that you kind of like, I'm going to say randomly went into, it wasn't
Yeah.
like this passion
Yeah.
or something, but you went into that field, but that knowledge, your persistence, even possibly like just taking the time and space to understand your body, like all these things
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And were there for you,
Mm-hmm.
almost as though it was preparing you for these moments, right? Like this is where like
Yeah.
I'm personally not a super spiritual person, but like it's hard to deny sometimes that the world, like our journey is a collection of experiences that
Mm-hmm.
then become powerful. They might not always feel in the moment like, this
Right.
is the path I should be on. But when you have moments in your path and whatever you've experienced in the past help you through that moment, you can't help but deny, this was all right. Like everything
Yeah.
I did led to this moment and prepared me for this moment. So I
Yeah,
love
for
that this is
sure.
an example of that. Like you just
Yeah.
had what you needed and
Mm-hmm.
you know, grounded yourself and you
Yeah.
went through it and you persisted and you used what you knew to get through this moment. That's really powerful.
No, thank you. I mean, speaking of the spirituality, I did not, when I went into this, I had been running away from spirituality myself. My
Mm,
husband's atheist, to let you know what kind of environment,
yeah.
and he's Norwegian. He's, very, very, whatever the idea you have an atheist, he's a great guy. And, but I had been getting away from spirituality from, the way I was raised. And this just brought me right back into like, okay, someone is taking care of me. Somebody is, or
Right.
something is watching out for me, in ways that I could not have imagined. And it's the whole, when you can reconnect with yourself, you reconnect with your intuition, which you can argue can be a spiritual experience, that you can't explain it, but you just know. And, when you reconnect with yourself, you make better decisions, you have clear mind, and, you just are overall a better person.
Right. Yeah. That's super powerful. Again, like I think there's, no matter which God you
Mhm.
believe in
Yeah.
or what your spiritual philosophy is, there is an undeniable natural system and order of things, right?
Yeah.
Even if you just want to celebrate Mother Nature as the creator of things, right? But like
Absolutely.
nature has its own systems
Yeah.
and life has patterns and cycles. And one thing that I've been recently thinking about, because a lot of people I know are going through some tough times, whether it's
Mhm.
cancer or their business is struggling or, relationships or whatever. But
Yeah.
one thing I was realizing is that, it can be tempting to want to avoid all of this pain and stress
Yeah.
and anxiety and difficulty, whether it's cancer, building a business, or whatever. But
Yeah.
those are all part of the journey, right? You
Hmm.
like if you hadn't learned some of these things or gone through some of these things, you might not have survived, right? It's like those
Right.
difficulties are those parts of your life journey that gave you the context, gave you the knowledge, gave you the awareness, gave you the mindset to get through, right? So to some degree,
Yeah.
we almost need to like celebrate the
Yeah.
difficult times too, right? Like it seems weird, but like
Absolutely.
those difficult times are where we're learning how to survive and thrive in the better times.
For sure. One of the moments that I celebrated, which was a very difficult time, but I couldn't do it any other way, was when I was losing my hair. And I was like, do I do it quietly in my home? What do I do? And I decided to have a head shaving party. And, it was honestly one of the hardest things. And I kept telling people it's like walking through a door that you don't know what's on the other side, and it scares you, but you just got to do it. But what happens? You become a better person. You become a kinder person. You become a more empathetic person when you go through these hardships. And, I'm grateful for the outcome of those hardships for sure.
Yeah, I love it.
Greener, eco-sensible living is possible when we make small changes that can have a big impact. When you shop Detox, you're purchasing eye-catching, appealing, and sturdy tableware that's made from naturally fallen palm leaves. Our microwave-safe, single-use disposable tableware is completely natural and compostable. Not only is it more attractive than other disposable items, it empowers and employs a workforce of women in India. Shop dtocs.com today.
So speaking of, in general, self-care, healing, all this kind of stuff, I know that beyond making products, you're also a bit of a healer and have different healing practices. So I'm just curious, with someone with your knowledge of this kind of practice of self-care and healing, what were you doing during all this cancer journey? Like, what were some of your self-care practices that kept you going?
Yeah, yoga, and I'm not talking about, warrior pose, feeling like I'm this warrior by any means. It was
Yeah.
literally restorative yoga, where I'm just in child's pose, maybe for minutes at a time, hugging myself because of we forget to do that, and oftentimes, not just hug ourselves or not just, care for ourselves, but sometimes we reject ourselves. And,
Right.
I've spent a lot of my upbringing and into my 30s and still same, if I catch myself, of rejecting myself. And it was no longer pushing myself, because I know how to push myself. It was just to love myself. And
Wow.
through restorative yoga, through meditation, just by quieting my mind that continually, constantly races. And so it was all about gentleness for me.
Wow. I
Yeah.
feel like, I'm the social media platform I'm on the most these days is LinkedIn. And there's
Yeah.
this growing balance of like people talking about self-care and mental health and stuff on there. But, so many of the posts on platforms like LinkedIn or the articles you read in business magazines or something are all about the hustle, the hard work, the, work harder and more hours than everyone else.
Hmm.
And, when times are tough, just work 10 times harder, like all this kind of stuff. But I love this focus of like gentleness and
Yeah.
self-love, et cetera, because to your point, like a lot of entrepreneurs listen to the show, like we know how to push ourselves, right? But
Yeah.
do we know how to love ourselves too? And
Right.
that's really powerful. And that's something I know I personally don't. Like I need to work on that. So this is
You,
inspiring to me personally to like create a little more. I've had a few moments this year where I had like a taste of just calm and quiet space in my life.
hmm.
And I told myself I need to do more of this because it is restorative and healing, right?
Yeah.
But this is yet another reminder that I need to take some
Yeah.
of those moments for myself, because we can't show up as our full selves for our team, for our customers, for
True.
our family, friends, etc. If we're not taking care of ourselves. And I think so many of us just push and go and go from one to-do item or one challenge or one award or one of whatever to the
Yeah.
next without stopping
Absolutely.
to reflect, without creating space and peace, without kind
Hmm.
of coming back to some harmony. So I love that you used that to get yourself through these times, but it's also just a tool that we should all be using all of the time, right?
For sure. I mean, I think one of the things that has fascinated me and I've been aware of is, entrepreneurs, and I hear these amazing, like, just for an example, I forget his name, so excuse me, but the founder of Zappos, he created this amazing company. And thinking as an entrepreneur, if I was at that level, and then, the way he passed, and people who commit suicide they've accomplished all that they've wanted to do, and then it not being enough. I never want to get myself in that position. So constantly taking care of myself. And trust me, I'm not perfect at that. This whole year has just been go, go, go. And then finally last Thursday, I hit a wall, and I'm like, you know what? I'm giving myself permission to take Thursday and Friday off. And at first I was like, that was really hard for me. I was like,
Wow.
Thursday and Friday off. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then it felt so good. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take Saturday and Sunday off too. And then when I did, Monday came around, and my brain, like, my brain is fresh. I feel like there was a shift in my mindset where I was just pushing. You know how you're just, if you can imagine pushing a wall that's there, and you're pushing and pushing, and it's going a little bit, but when I can just stop and say, okay, I can't push this anymore, and I can just reset. Oh my God. I'm like, what was I doing for the past, 10, 12 months, when
Right.
all I just needed was 5 days to take a break.
Yeah,
I want to
that's
take more one day, but right now, 5 days.
totally. Yeah, that reminds me of I can't remember where I first heard it, but it was this concept of like little daily cleaning, like 5 minutes now instead of like 2 hours
Yeah.
later or something, right?
So true.
Like
Yep.
little daily things that you can do to just tidy up here or there, put the dishes in the dishwasher, like throw your trash
So,
off your desk away, like those kind of things that you ignore when you're like crazy busy or something like that. But then you're punished because it's like, now it's going to take me hours to clean all this stuff
right.
up. But you could have just been doing little moments of cleaning. But this what you were just describing kind of reminds me of that, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's a
5 days
good. Yeah.
of restorative health or whatever
Yep.
brings you so much energy to power through. Whereas
Hmm.
hustling, you're just draining your battery the whole time, right?
That's right.
If you don't recharge that battery, it's eventually going to get so drained that you're going to burn out or,
Hmm.
and let's be honest, even as it's draining, you're probably not making the best decisions. But taking that 5 days, which seems like you just don't have that much time to give,
Yeah.
or you got all these deadlines, or you got all
I got
these,
posts to
orders to
make.
fulfill.
Yeah. Yeah, I got
Feels
plans. Yeah. We're about to hit Black Friday and I haven't even made my Black Friday plans, but I couldn't even think about Black Friday when
right.
I'm drowning over here. So I took the time, and it needs to be more routine for sure. But again, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm
Yeah.
trying to learn my own medicine that I'm trying to give.
Yeah, it's a tough lesson to learn. Like, we know it's right, but
Yeah.
it's easier said than done, right? Because there are lots of things we have to react to if we want to keep our
Mhm.
business going. So,
Yeah.
I personally struggle with that balance, just working all the time and trying to remind myself I need to take some time off and relax too. But it's hard, like when all these opportunities or deadlines or whatever pop up. It's like I'm I have to be willing to say no, or I have to be willing to push things off, or I have to be willing to maybe let some people down along the way
Yeah.
if I'm going to
Right.
create some space for myself. But in the long run, it's probably the better choice, right?
Absolutely.
So we've talked a lot about the concept behind the business, but like, let's get specific here. What products are you most known for, and where can people go to learn more about them?
Yeah, so I would say my bestseller is my Chilean rosehip seed body oil. So it's light, it's beautiful. All my products are scented with just a whisper. So I market towards the spa market. So I get a lot of inspiration from the spa market. And so just as you need to whisper in when you're at the spa, my scent is a whisper. I never want something that's overpowering, and because that's my biggest pet peeve. So that is a great product. It's an easy win. It's light but yet highly moisturizing. And then one of my other favorite. They all change all the time, but I'll stick with this one because it has to do with an ingredient that I discovered from the Amazon called kupawasu. And so kupawasu is actually from the Amazon. It's a cousin to cacao. And what was
Oh,
interesting as I discovered this ingredient is it's 2 times more hydrating than shea butter, which
oh
we've
wow.
all heard of. Yeah. But nobody's heard of it. Again, the power of marketing. Shea butter is a beautiful ingredient, so I don't want to say that it's not, but there are so many ingredients, like I said, that are underutilized or undiscovered that I'm happy to discover are out there. And I had gone to a spa trade show last year, and I was telling all the spa directors. I probably spoke to 100 spa directors, which, mind you, they are in beauty business. They know ingredients. Maybe 2 of them had heard of kupawasu.
Wow.
And I can guarantee you 100% had heard of shea butter. And so I have a kupawasu body butter, which is very hydrating, great for the winter months, especially, if you're up in the north or, just really that dry weather that you have. It's amazing. And actually, Four Seasons Vale used to have a shea treatment, and then they swapped it out with my kupawasu treatment. And so those are, I would say, those 2 are really ones that are easy to win people over quickly.
I mean, that's great when you win them over quickly. The challenge of trying to sell something innovative, by innovative, I mean, maybe it's a new form, it's a new
Yeah.
flavor, it's a new ingredient, something like
Yep.
that, is the education process, right? So like, at
Yeah.
least with this, like once people use it, they're like convinced, but it still means you have to go out and educate people on these new
Yeah.
ingredients all the time. But let's flip that around. How are you
Yep.
staying informed and educated about these different ingredients? Because it starts with you, right? You have to learn about it before you can convince others.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just to be honest and frank, and it's been my life. It's been what's helped train me is a good old Google University. And I come from a medical field, and so I'm reading medical articles and things like that. Which, interestingly enough, I discovered something even recently with my breast cancer diagnosis. My radiation oncologist wanted me to make this green tea that I could spray on my area that was getting radiated, because it helped with breast cancer and preventing it. And that piqued my interest, because I'm like, you mean green tea, like from the supermarket, and you are my doctor, like telling me to make this green tea? So then I got curious as a scientist, and I said, okay. So I found the article that that they referenced about green tea helping with breast cancer. And so then I dove even a little bit further, and I said, well, what's in green tea that's helping with breast cancer? And it's an antioxidant called polyphenols. And I'm like, okay, green tea is to Asia, where I have an yerba mate bath soak. So yerba mate is to South America. And I'm like, okay, let me compare green tea to yerba mate polyphenols. And then I discovered actually that yerba mate has more polyphenols than green tea. Yeah. And so these doctors are studying ingredients that they've heard about, because that's top of mind. But what about these other ingredients that nobody's thinking about? And so these little research things takes me down a rabbit hole that's really enlightening and fun for me.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And again, your medical background, even though that's not necessarily where you wanted to go, continues to serve you, right? So it's about the full journey and carrying all those experiences, knowledge with you. Also, shout out to yerba mate. I'm drinking it right now. The guayaki yerba mate is one of my daily rituals. So cheers.
What is it called?
Guayaki is the brand, but it's just their loose leaf yerba mate that
I'm going to try it.
Drink pretty much every
Then
morning.
what I started doing is for my radiation, instead of green tea, I started making my own yerba mate tea that I would spray on. And so eventually maybe I'll do something with that. But it just inspires me to know all the beautiful botanicals that come from Latin America. And I have to say, this was when I was discovering, Sanara was coming to my mind and to these ideas. This was also a time where our president at the time was saying that Mexicans were rapists and all these things. And it made me so mad. And I was like, no, I'm going to show the beauty of Latin America. And this is just my way of doing that. And so it really does just light my soul up when I can discover these beautiful ingredients that outperform top of mind ingredients.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because I mean, I forget what article I was reading too, but it was something about how much of the rainforests we've cut down, for example, and how many species we have no idea exist, both plant and animal and fungi, all that kind of stuff. In the jungles or even in the oceans. There's so much of the oceans we haven't explored, right?
Yeah.
But we're just plowing it down to grow some crops, some monocrops of stuff that we do know, but we're cutting all these rainforests or whatever down, or killing the oceans, etc. How many cancer curing or skin curing or mental health curing or whatever, how many of those plants or animals or fungi are we just constantly destroying without even knowing they exist? Right. So it's even in our known world, you're discovering things.
So true. And, climate change is a really big concern for me, as it should be for everybody. But even for my business, just like you said, it's just, it's mind boggling. And we need to do something, figure it out.
And that's, part of why I do what I do around sustainability and focusing on things that are super interconnected. I do a lot of work in the food space around organic, regenerative, fair trade, et cetera. But you've fixed the food system, you're also impacting positively a bunch of other systems. But, same thing with this, paying a little bit more attention to what we're putting on our skin or putting in our bodies might make us start asking questions of, well, what else is out there that we're kind of missing the boat on, and where can we find more information, or how do we protect the planet so we don't destroy those things before we even find out about them, et cetera. So, that's why I'm also part of 1% for the planet, is because even though I don't necessarily do a bunch of outdoor related, like hiking related brand projects or something like that, we realize that this planet is all that we have, right? Like all these resources, like we survive off of it. Everything else survives off it. It's all interconnected. So if we're not somehow doing what we can to protect the planet along the way, then food suffers, like humans suffer, our health suffers. Like it's all connected, right? So I love that you're exploring and finding these ingredients that are raising the awareness of all the other things that are out there. We get so caught up in only pushing corn everywhere, corn syrup, corn this, corn that, whatever. Yeah. But there's like so many other types of food that like have sugar or sweetness or whatever else that we're trying to do. But humans tend to want to just find one thing and then maximize the crap out of it instead of celebrating the diversity of all of the things and the interconnectedness.
So true. Absolutely.
So, just for people who know and are convinced that they really want to go try these products right now, they can go to Sanara Skincare. And I will put the link in the show notes of this episode as well, so they can get there. But I could feel like I could keep geeking out on what we've been talking about for a while. But I also have been looking at the clock and realizing I told listeners that I was going to try to do shorter episodes, which I'm failing on. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to just switch into since this is part of a Naturally Network series, we're going to switch into just a bit of a somewhat rapid fire round questions around Naturally Network, so people learn more about that too. So what is your favorite thing about Naturally Network?
Being a first-time entrepreneur and the fear that comes with it, Naturally Network has really given me an eye-opening reality to what real entrepreneurship is. It can be, I've had many people that want to be a part of Sanara, and then when we get down to what entrepreneurship means, which is basically you're solving problems all day long, and there's not a lot of glitz and glamour that comes with that. There's a lot of rolling up of your sleeves, being able to be connected with other entrepreneurs. Because like I said, at the time that I grew up, it was McDonald's, it was Coca-Cola, all these big, huge conglomerates that had no face. And so Naturally Network was able to put a face to these brands and a story as to what it really is like to build a brand.
That's cool. Put a face to it. Like, I think that's part of the modern way of business is people are more interested in knowing a little bit about who's behind a product or why they're doing it, right? That's all the shift in consumer trends towards buying things, locally made or made with more intentions or made with more transparency, et cetera. It's all just because we're starting to realize, wait a minute, where this is made, how this is made, what's in it is actually really important. And not knowing that's what's put us in a lot of these really bad situations. So absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
So who's someone in the network that you want to give a shout out to for supporting your journey and why?
Yeah, I would say the person who comes out that the most is Katrina Tolentino. She, is a super connector. She is warm and welcoming and gave me that safe space to come in and explore. Because like I said, there's a lot of growth, inner mental growth that has to happen as an entrepreneur. I don't belong, who am I? Who do I think I am? And to have someone like Katrina to be like, yeah, what you're doing is amazing. And I'm like, it is? Okay, yeah. And so just to have that empathetic person who is, looking out for the smaller guy. So I give her shout out.
Yeah, she's amazing. We've had her on the podcast twice now as well. So,
so a big fan of her too. Have to listen to those. I love she's inspiring for sure.
Absolutely. So that's a great one. Okay, so what's the hardest thing about being a woman of color on this entrepreneurial journey?
I think the hardest thing is, as a woman and a person of color, lack of funding, lack of resources. I think as a culture, we can tend to stick to ourselves because it's safe. And this entrepreneurial world is dominated by male white men, which is great. My husband's a male white man, so I know there are plenty of good ones out there. And so I think it's just being able to overcome those mindsets that keep you back, and overcoming them and realizing that I'm capable. And so it's been hard, it's been challenging, but I know I'm capable to overcome whatever obstacle may come my way.
Yeah. And that's a powerful note too about the cliquey old white guys club of a lot of what happened to a lot of business culture for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like a culture that like holds people out because they're supporting their own, for lack of a better word, tribe, like they're supporting their people who look like them and talk like them and act like them, etc.
Absolutely.
But I did read something a while back. I can't even remember the source, but it was something about investment firms and how a lot of them are made up of, white dudes, and they fund other white dudes because that's who they understand. That's who they click with. That's who's in their social circle.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But the boards that are the investment firms that they studied that had more diversity on their investment team, not only were more open, like had more access to diverse groups of businesses because their social network was wider, but they were also actually better at making financial decisions. Like they outperform the white guy club investments, because the white guy club investments are like, well, you look and talk and act like me, you must know what you're talking about. So they invest a little bit more on that. But the diverse investment firm was able to approach it from a better angle and say like, well, sure, they seem like they know what they're doing, but like this business plan actually sucks, right? Or, you know what? This person doesn't have a lot of experience, but I see their drive and their passion, and the market they're going after is huge, right? It's like opening up all these conversations to make better investment decisions. So the funny thing is like the lack of funding and resources that comes from that cliquey vibe is actually hurting the investment firms too, because they could be backing a lot better companies if they opened up their circle more.
Yeah, I'm amazed when I hear that this company, they get, hundreds of millions or millions of investment, and they close down, and then they go and they get another investment. And yet here, and I'm like, really? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
But
I can't even get $100,000 grant or a loan or whatever. And like this person just burned 40 million.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like one of the examples I keep hearing about on like LinkedIn lately is, I think it's Oatly, if I'm misquoting it, sorry to everyone, but I'm pretty sure it's Oatly, where they made something like 700 million in revenue, during this year, last year, whatever, and lost $70 million, like negative 70 million. And so all these people are popping up. These kind of stories keep bubbling up. It's like, how do you have that much loss for so long and keep staying in business? And it's just because for whatever reason, people keep pumping money in to keep it alive, because maybe they hope that someday it'll turn around. Whereas there's all these like amazing businesses that are turning a profit that you just don't know of. Just because they're not on this unicorn growth path doesn't mean they're not good investments, right? And I think it's just something's broken. All the systems are broken, as we've talked about today, but like something's very broken in the funding world too. Anyway, so how has the minority-owned fellowship helped you?
I think in the same way that Naturally Network has, it's given me faces to relate with, people to feel at ease with, in this terrain that's bumpy and unpredictable and scary. It's been able to give that camaraderie that comes with building something together.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think community in general is like one of my favorite things to build, just because of that, right? You need a space where people get what you're going through, a space where people understand your challenges, and hopefully a space where, like, because they're on a same journey or same path, they'll also have learned some lessons you haven't yet and can share it, and you can teach them something that they haven't come across yet. And together we can go further faster, is what kind of I've been describing as community. So it's powerful in that regard, but it's also just nice to feel seen and heard sometimes, to be able to vent
And inspired
about
by,
something and somebody's like, yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, for sure.
Love it. Yeah. And inspired by, as you're saying. So
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So one final question, since this podcast is all about supporting brands for a better world, what does a better world mean to you?
I was thinking about this last night, and when we can be fulfilled, our mind, our spirit, our body can be fulfilled, meaning we're not overworked. We make a good paycheck. We can enjoy our families. Our mind, meaning I can be challenged and I can be taught to learn more. And my spirit, meaning that we're all treated well in what we do. If I can create, I come from corporate, and I come from very toxic corporate. And that was also part of my journey in wanting to create something, because I want to create that atmosphere where people are fulfilled, their mind, their body, and their spirit. And, it just doesn't feel like it's too much to ask.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that's a perfect spot to end. We should all seek out those spaces, whether it's a community, a job, build our own business, whatever, where we can support everyone being fulfilled, mind, body, and spirit. Yeah. Beautiful. So we'll put links to everything we discussed in the show notes. But I just want to celebrate I know you just finished up your cancer treatments, so congratulations on that. But also celebrate your persistence and strength and wisdom to know that you need to create some space and peace during that journey too, instead of just stressing through it. And I think my hunch would be, when the science catches up to nature, that's probably a big part of what got you through this, right? Because all the drugs and stuff we throw at things, hit or miss, like you don't always know if it's going to work. But the people that I feel like power through are the ones that have that I'm going to survive and I'm going to heal. I'm going to work on that. When they have that mentality, it feels like everything else works better, right?
Yeah, for sure. Mental mindset is huge. People's outcomes or people's situations are different, but if you can have the same outcome from one person to the next, and if your mindset is different, then it could be the game changer.
Absolutely. So congratulations on all that. I'm excited to see what you keep doing as you keep building this brand and everything else you're doing in life. But thanks for doing that. Thanks for sharing this story. Thanks for creating these products for the world. And thanks for, as you mentioned, trying to create space where people can be fulfilled, mind, body, and spirit.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This has been an honor.
Beautiful. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about Rebekah or her company, go to sanaraskincare.com. That's SANARA skincare.com. If you like this show, remember to help us grow by liking, reviewing, and sharing. If you're new here, don't forget we have over 100 episodes in the archive. Some might be called Evolve CPG, but it's the same show, so dig in for more goodness. If you consider yourself an impact-driven professional, join me over at impactdriven.community, where we're supporting each other's growth as impact leaders.